Now, I'm never really sure. Oh, I'm live. Okay, welcome everybody. My name's Nathan Killick. Welcome to the Camden Haven Anglican Church Drill Down. And let me say it again, the drill down is where we, as a church, drill down over the passage of the Bible that we looked at on the previous Sunday. So, if you missed that and you want to check it out, then all you need to go to is the Camden Haven Anglican Church YouTube channel. And on the YouTube channel, you'll see a whole bunch of stuff, the last services that we've done and things like that. And you can check those out. Now, today, we are up to Matthew chapter 17 and verses 14 and following. That's the bit after the Transfiguration. And today we're asking the question, how do you... I've got a filter on, he says. Anyway, I know what that is. I'll see if I can fix that. Today, we're thinking about how you unleash kingdom power. Let's jump into it. Well, there we go. Intro. Yeah, so there is a little bit of a... I'll try to fix this, but I have tried to fix this in the past, haven't I? So let me see if I can do that. Here we go. A bit dangerous to be doing this in the middle of a 4.8. Let's do 5.8. I don't know. That may or may... Oh, no, that's not going to do it. If I go down here and I go like this... Let's see if that's any different. I don't know. But we're going to dive into things. We've got a question this week. Oh, actually, what I want to do is I want to start the countdown because the countdown helps me to make sure that I'm pacing myself properly so that I make sure I get to the end and not do this quick rush at the end. So that's why the countdown's there, but you may be a bit distracted by it. I'm sorry about that. Please try not to be. Please look past it. Anyway, the question of the week from Beatrix, are you going anywhere for the school holidays? Am I going anywhere for the school holidays? Well, I hope to go and see my son play guitar in Sydney. That's one possibility. And I hope, excuse me, we're possibly going up to Bowral as well, checking that sort of stuff out. So, yeah. I wonder if you're going anywhere for the holidays. Beatrix, see how happy you have a really good time. Okay, so let's dive into this because we've got this passage. It's actually more significant than I thought in the first place, and so I'm quite amazed. Now I can actually see that I'm a bit dark. I've got an idea. Do that. I don't know if that's any better. Oh, that's a bit washed out. Anyway, what it is, and we are going to. So I think the problem is on my Upstream Key 2 laptop, and I can do all sorts of things that will. I can, oh, look at that. Oh, goodness, that's not what you want. That's interesting that what you're seeing and what I'm seeing are slightly different. Oh, you don't want to see that. Okay. Background or anything? Maybe a bit. Let's see if that's better. Ah, that looks a bit better. Let me try that. Now, you don't want to sit here and look at me fix things. You want to look at the Bible. So let's do that. We're going to do that now, and we're going to check out Matthew chapter 17 and move through that. So let me just do that and jump on there. Let's have a look at it. So when they came, so remember they've just come from the Mount of Transfiguration. Now Jesus is back with his disciples, and they are they're all together again. Peter, James and John and the rest of them are there. They came to the crowd. A man came up to him and, kneeling before him, said, "Lord, have mercy on my son, for he has seizures." Now, that word, seizures, oops, that is not what I wanted to do. I wanted to highlight it. That word, seizures, in some of your translations might be translated as epilepsy. He has epilepsy. That would be a bad translation of that. So if yours says epilepsy, then you can cross that out. Just put seizures. That's not epilepsy. That's not what it's on about. And he suffers terribly. Notice that. He suffers terribly. For often he falls into the fire and often into the water. So we've got some fire and some water. I brought him to your disciples and they could not heal him. Now, I think the important thing to see in this very beginning is this is not merely another healing episode. This is a healing episode that has a problem. Every good story has a crisis, and you think that the crisis is the boy, the son, and in some real sense that's true. The crisis, however, is pointed out in verse 16, and the crisis here is, I brought him to your disciples and they could not heal him. So this is the inability of the disciples to heal this boy. This is what the emphasis, this is where the story is, this is where the crisis of the story is. That's to get us thinking about what is going on. So there we go. Brought him to the disciples and they could not heal him. Now, let's see why. Verse 17. Jesus answered. Now, this is answering that situation of the disciples not being able to heal. "O faithless and twisted generation, how long am I to be with you? How long am I to bear with you? Bring him here to me." And Jesus rebuked the demon, and it came out of the boy, and the boy was instantly healed. Now, this part here, "O faithless and twisted generation," is actually a sort of a quote from Deuteronomy chapter 32, where the Israelites are seen as a people who are, notice here, not little faith, but faithless. They have no faith. And that's the story of the Old Testament people that Deuteronomy sums up when it goes over their history there. So we've got here Jesus answering the disciples in the same sort of words that God, and through Moses, spoke to the Israelites way back when in Deuteronomy chapter 32, which is quite shocking, isn't it? Because what the Israelites were, the disciples are. And we're going to see a little bit more about that. "O faithless and twisted generation, how long am I to be with you? How long am I to bear with you? Bring him here to me." And Jesus rebuked the demon, and it came out of him, and the boy was instantly healed. Healed instantly. I've got different versions in my head. That's why I keep reading it the other way around. So we've got a healing here of a boy, but the emphasis here is, first of all, the disciples couldn't heal him. And then Jesus says, faithless and twisted generation. And that is speaking, I think, to the disciples, not to the man. Now, this man in other Gospels is the one that says, "I believe, help my unbelief." But Matthew doesn't point that out in this one, so we don't need to think about that. We want to stick with Matthew because we want to hear what Matthew is saying, not what the whole lot is saying. So Jesus heals the demon, and it comes out of him, and the boy was healed instantly. Now, here we go. We're returning to the question, aren't we? Then the disciples came to Jesus privately and said, "Why could we not drive it out?" So I want to highlight that. Why could we not cast it out? And the reason that I want to highlight that is because, again, Matthew is pointing to this as being the big question. Why were the disciples unable to heal this man's son. So the emphasis, excuse me, being on the disciples' inability. What's the answer? Well, verse 20, he said to them, here's the answer, because of your little faith. There it is. There's the answer, because of your little faith. He goes on to say, for truly I say to you, oops, I just disappeared for a moment. For truly I say to you, if you have faith like a grain of mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you. Now just notice what's going on here. Because of your little faith, and then he goes on to sort of say, the problem is you've got little faith, but the answer is, well, mustard seed faith, which is sort of him saying, your problem is little faith, the answer is little faith. And I'm not sure why that's dropping on and off, but we'll cope with that. So what's going on there? How can Jesus say, your problem is little faith, all you need is little faith? What is going on? Why is that happening? Well, I'll give you some time to think about that and say hello to whoever's here. It says Steve Watt is here. Now, is Steve Watt there? Or is that his family? I don't know. Because I thought Steve was away, but maybe he's back. And, oh, goodness, Callum is there. Callum is there. Yes, the rundown. Got that. And Linda's here. G'day. And we've said hello to Gary and Lois. Great stuff. And there's a whole bunch of you watching. Greg's there as well. There's a whole bunch of you watching. And I don't know who you are. But anyway, hello, Ellen as well. Good to see you. And even Steve's said hello. The Binks are listening. Awesome. So have we thought about it? Have we thought about what this story is? What is little faith? Mustard seed faith. They sound like the same thing to me. Well, I think that what we sometimes think that this is saying, and I've heard it plenty of times, is Steve is back today, fantastic. What I've heard plenty of times is that the issue for the disciples was their amount of faith, because Jesus calls them little faiths, as if to say, if they were big faiths, then they would be better. However, he goes on to say, if you had faith the size of a mustard seed, you'd be able to say to this mountain, which for them was the boy, throwing himself into the fire, the demon that they couldn't move. Jesus is saying, with tiny little mustard seed faith, you'll be able to move this. Which is why it really doesn't work when people say, oh, if only you had more faith. If you had more faith, this would work. Or if you had more faith, that would work. If you had more faith, then you'd be able to heal this person. And the sort of the proof text that we have is this sort of text, little faith. Now, another way, and I think it might be actually better or more helpful to understand that this little faith is actually short faith. That is, faith that falls short of what it ought to have faith in. That is, the faith that they are expressing, that the disciples are expressing, is not faith that is focused well. It is faith in the one that they want Jesus to be. And we've already seen that, haven't we, in the passage in end of chapter 16. Jesus says that he must suffer and he must die. And they say, no, we don't want that. We're happy for you to be son, but we're not happy for you to be servant. As we're looking at Psalm 2 and Isaiah 42 from the declaration from heaven that God says both at the baptism and on the mountain. Now, they are simply, their faith is not focused right. So let's have a look here. What have we got said? We've got what's going on here? We've got Cheryl or Alan has said their faith was smaller than a mustard seed. See, again, good point. But that's not the point. The point is not amount of faith. The point is the object of faith. I think that's what Jesus is saying. So little faith is not, it's not saying little, it's short faith. That is, it's faith not in who Jesus has said that he is. So that's possibly one there. What does Linda here says? A mustard seed grows. Okay, so again, do you see how we are defaulting to amounts? We need more faith, and a mustard seed is good because that will be more one day. Well, no, I don't think that is what is going on. Again, I want to say their little faith is short faith, and that's why I think probably it would be better translated as short faith, because then at least people will ask the question and not assume that it's talking about an amount. So thank you for that, Linda, and thank you for that, Cheryl and Alan, because that's good input. That helps us to be able to see a whole bunch of stuff there. So I suppose to reiterate what I'm saying here is little faith is better seen as short faith. What is needed is tiny faith in the right thing, not faith in the wrong thing. You can have a bunch of faith in the wrong thing, it's not going to do you any good. You can have a tiny bit of faith in the right thing, it's going to do you good. That's what Jesus is saying here. Now, in particular, and we see what happens next, so let me jump to that. It's that one and that one. See what he does next. He says, as they were gathering in Galilee, Jesus said to them, the Son of Man is about to be delivered into the hands of men, and they will kill him, and he will be raised on the third day. And they were greatly distressed. Now, what is happening here? Jesus is once again articulating the type of Christ that they are to have faith in. Full faith, focused faith, faith that moves mountains, faith that releases the power of the kingdom, is faith in the Son of Man who will be delivered into the hands of men and will be killed and on the third day rise again. So this is the sort of thing we need to be really getting clear. And the reason we've got to get it clear is because there is a bunch of really unhelpful understandings out there. It limits people's growth as Christians if they think that the reason that they're in a bad situation, or the reason that they're unwell, or the reason that something's not going right is because somehow they don't have enough faith. And I just want to say that is not what the Bible is saying. Very, very unhelpful and even abusive to speak to people like that and to even suggest those sorts of things. And there is a bunch of people who speak like that. If only you had more faith, if you had enough faith. And the reason God doesn't heal you is you haven't got to this level of faith. Friends, that's just not the case. Two things wrong with that. First of all, it's not about the amount of faith, but the focus of our faith. That was already said. The second thing is that type of talk doesn't see that what God is doing now, and what he will do. So the Bible will say that we are saved, we are being saved, and we will be saved. And so we need to understand salvation in those three segments. When you become a Christian, you are saved, you are forgiven, you are justified. The verdict that will be given on the day of judgment about you are given today. It is brought forward from that day and given to you today, innocent, no condemnation. You are free. You are made whole. Whatever you've done, whatever you've thought, whatever you've said to others is wiped out. The sin is wiped out of that, and you are made a child of God. Certain, no separation. And that is what's happening there. So that's true. But also we need to see that our process is that we are also being saved. We've been saved and we are being saved. And what is happening in this process as we're being saved, which is in our life now, is not that we're given, just perfect ability in everything and that we're being given healing and all that sort of stuff. What God is working on is something even greater than a working limb, a healthy back, a healthy mind, a healthy arms, muscles, whatever. I wish you would say this stuff about faith in church. Oh goodness, let me highlight that. Now, Ellen says, I wish you would say this stuff about faith in church. Okay. If you don't feel that that's coming across, then I need to say it. And that needs to be said more at church, because there are so many people who are trapped in an understanding of God's will for them. And it's not a father, is it? God's not a father to them. God is like he's like a shopkeeper who's saying, hey, give me more money before I give you what you're asking for. That's just not him at all. The Father gives out for free. The Father is good. During this we are being saved period, and so thank you, Ellen, for that. During this we are being saved period, the second period there, is a healing going on in us, that God actually uses the suffering that we are going through to enhance something more than muscle, but it is faith. We are being shaped morally. We are being shaped spiritually. We are learning patience. We are learning faithfulness. We are learning love. We are learning joy. We're learning all these things. And more often than not, God will either cause or use the suffering that we go through for his purposes, that is, to grow us. Why is it that most of the songs in the world, most of the great songs, are songs born out of trial? So someone will write a song and it'll be a great song, and what will the song be about? It'll be, I lost my girlfriend or whatever, or I've come to a significant moment of loss in my life. Now that is going to what? That is going to actually turn me back and strengthen me to the Father, to the Lord Jesus. There is the healing that's going on. I'm being saved. I have been saved, I'm being saved, and I will be saved. And it's in that future. It's that future state when we are made to be, our bodies are made to be like his glorious body, that is in the new creation, that we are fully healed. And that is that our physical experience catches up with our spiritual experience. Physical doesn't necessarily mean not spiritual, but there is that sense that's catching up. So let's have a look here. What's being said? When we're down to nothing, God is up to something for our eternal good and his purpose. Yeah, thanks, Cheryl and Alan. That's so true. And we really need to see that. Let's see what Ellen's had to say. Because we are branches on the vine, the suffering is us being pruned. Yeah, and we come back even more bushy. Wow. John chapter 15? Yeah, John chapter 15. What an important passage. It says that Jesus says, I am the vine and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit. Every branch that does bear fruit, he cuts. Now, if you're reading that, you're going, what? Wait a minute. The second is the idea of pruning so that there will be greater growth. Now, really, our experience of suffering, God uses as pruning. Now, I don't want to suffer. I don't want you to suffer. Yes, so thank you, Ellen, for that. I don't want you to suffer, but God will use that suffering. We will suffer. You live long enough, life will kick you in the teeth. That's what's been said. But what we need to really understand is what God is doing. He's working on this second stage, being saved. We are putting to death the misdeeds of the body, Romans 6, I think, or Romans 8, one of the two. We are putting on Christ and taking off the flesh. This is a continual process that you and I are going through all the time. Okay, so let's move on in our text so that we can make sure that we get through this, because there's some excellent stuff coming up, and I really hope I'm able to get this across. Let's see, we've done that bit. So the point in this one is, as we look at this, as they were gathering in Galilee, see, Jesus here is again stating the Christ that they are to put their faith in. Mustard seed sized faith in the Christ who will be servant and son is rightly placed faith. Here, look at their response. And they, which is the disciples, were greatly distressed. Another word for that is grieved. Grieved or distressed works there. Now, think about this. What were they before? Before, in chapter 16, they were opposed. Peter was opposed to what Jesus was saying, and that was wrong. That was a satanic thing. But now they're greatly distressed, so they're still not believing. They're still falling short. Their faith is still short, isn't it? Little, short, that sort of thing. So let's have a look at this next bit. When they came to Capernaum, the collectors... Oops, I didn't want to do that. What did I do there? I want to do that. The collectors of the 2 drachma tax went up to Peter and said, "Does your teacher not pay the tax?" He said, "Yes." Now, this is a fascinating and surprisingly impactful little story that we almost never think about. And yet, I think that the way Matthew has written this up is in a particular way to make us think carefully about it, to make us scratch our head and say, what is going on here? So a couple of things to say. First of all, the collectors here of the 2 drachma tax, this 2 drachma tax, this is not the Roman tax. This is not the Roman tax that Jesus will say, give to Caesar what is Caesar's and give to God what is God's. This is a different tax. This is the tax that came from the temple. And if you were to go back into Exodus chapter 30, which Travis took us back into last Sunday, what he showed was that this 2 drachma tax was sort of like membership money. You might pay a membership to the gym or something. This is membership of the temple. If the people of God paid this membership to the temple, it was called an atonement tax, that sort of thing. And the question here about this tax is asked, and the collectors say, "Does your teacher not pay the tax?" Peter says, "Yes, he does now." Look at what happens. Let's go up. And when he came into the house, Jesus spoke to him first. Now, look at this. This is spoke to him first. Now, it has the idea here of Jesus. It is as if Jesus was watching the interaction with Peter and the temple tax collectors, and saw him answer the question, yes, he does pay the tax. And then Jesus goes, teaching opportunity here. There is a key, profound point that's about to be made, and it's very easy to miss. So what I'm going to ask you guys to do is if your thinking cap has fallen off, then put it back on. Let's drill back into this. Let's have a look how much time we've got. Okay, well, we've still got some time left to think about it, so that's all right. When he came, let me get this out. So I've got this. When he came into the house, Jesus spoke to him first. That is, this is the first thing that's on his mind. It's just a priority, saying, what do you think, Simon? From whom do the kings of the earth take toll or tax? From their sons or others? Now, how would you answer that question? Who do the kings of the earth take? He's not talking about the temple tax. He's talking about tax in general. From whom do the kings of the earth take toll? Now, we could put it this way. Who does the government receive tax from? Well, the people, doesn't it? Does the government receive tax from the government? Does the government pay itself tax so as to govern the people? You say, well, that'd be a novel idea. That'd be pretty good, wouldn't it? No. What normally happens is that the government doesn't take tax from itself, doesn't pay tax to itself. That's weird. It receives tax from others. In this illustration, from whom do kings of the earth take toll or tax? It's saying things like, where do the royals receive their money? Do the royals give the royals money? No. The money that the royals have comes from the people. So here this is pretty good. What Jesus is saying is that the sons of the kingdom don't pay tax. The people pay tax. Got that point? Okay, let's go on. Peter gets it right. Remember, this is Peter alone that's in this whole conversation. And when he had said, from others, he got it right, from others, Jesus said to him, then the sons are free. Well, yes, that's right. They're free from paying tax. They're free from paying tax because the tax is not to be paid by them. The tax is to be paid for them. The direction of that money is not from them outward. The direction of that money is to them. They're the ones that are receiving this. Is this okay? I'm going to pause for a minute. Let this sink in. Basic point. If you've got it, just keep it. The kingdoms receive tax from others, not themselves. Now, verse 27. However, just to check something, 13, yeah, good. However, not to give offence to them, sorry about that creaking. Can you hear that creaking? Yeah, I think it's creaking. I'll have to get some WD-40 or something. Go to the sea, cast a hook, and take the first fish that comes up. And when you open its mouth, you will find a shekel. Take that, give it to them for yourself and me. Now, I think I can. Talking about fish, let's see. All right, let's see if you can see this. Okay, Ellie went fishing today. Is that going to... It's not. There we go. Ellie went fishing today, and the fish that she caught, very little. Very little fish. So there we go. I could have put that up on the screen for you, couldn't I? There is this tiny little fish. So she went fishing, caught this tiny fish. Now Jesus is saying to Peter, go fishing, catch a fish, and in its mouth you'll find the money to pay for the temple tax. Now, I just want to see where I'm up to in my notes because I launch past beyond them and The tax that they were to pay, let me just go over that. The tax that they were to pay was a very small amount. So this tax here, this 2 drachma tax, was just like $5 or $10. It's not going to break the bank for anyone. Jesus probably could have just popped his hand in his pocket, grabbed it, or got a bit of an IOU from one of the other disciples. But he doesn't do it. It was a minuscule amount, relatively minuscule amount. But what he does is doesn't pay it. But look, verse 27, however, not to give offence to them, you're going to pay it. Now, see, the interesting thing here, why is that doing that? It doesn't like that that spelling. I think it wants to see it. It must be an American song. This is good. It's important. First of all, Jesus doesn't owe the tax because he is the one to whom tax is to be paid. He is the temple. He is the son of the king. So Peter's saying to the temple tax collectors, yes, he does pay. Jesus is saying, you're not understanding who I am. I am free from the tax because the tax is for me. The tax is to come to me. I am a son of the kingdom. And later on in the crucifixion scene in Matthew, they will say, this one who said, he's the temple, he's going to create and build it in 3 days, let him come down from the cross. He's saying he's the temple. He is the direction to which the tax ought to be paid. However, look what he does. He pays it. Go to the sea. He actually pays. In order not to give offence to them, he says, you're going to pay it. Now, he doesn't owe it, but he's going to voluntarily pay it. Now, just see what's happening here. Jesus is he is the author of the law. He is God in the flesh. He is Emmanuel, God with us, as Matthew will say. He is the author of the law, but puts himself under the law. He is a son and doesn't need to pay, but he pays. When John the Baptist says, I shouldn't be baptizing you, you should be baptizing me, Jesus says, no, that all righteousness should be fulfilled. We do this. This is what needs to happen. He is voluntarily putting himself under the demands of the law. And here in this little picture, we're seeing something absolutely amazingly profound, that here the king puts himself under and is becoming one of his subjects. It is the picture. It's the whole picture of the gospel, a whole picture of the incarnation, picture of him putting himself under the law. Just in this little story, there's so much in this. Now let me just check the timing here. 8 minutes to go, so that's helpful for me to see how we're going. What we see here is Peter got it wrong. Again, Peter is learning something, and what we need to remember to do is not to leap too quickly from the text, to the story of the text, to us. We need to see that what we're seeing is Peter learning something. Now, we've seen Peter learn something all throughout Matthew. I listed them out. Remember in Matthew chapter 14, Peter is learning. He says to Jesus, who's walking on the water, Lord, if it is you, Lord, tell me to come out onto the water to you. There's a time. Later on in Matthew chapter 16, we saw Peter again say, you are the Christ, you got it right, but then get it so wrong. So we see Peter learning again. We see Peter learning when Peter says up on the Mount of Transfiguration, he says, let's build 3 little tents, one for you, one for am I getting messages? Let me just check that. I think I might not be getting them. Anyway, you should be still hearing me. We'll see how that goes. Peter is the one that is learning over and over in all of these things. And Peter is now learning in this one. This will happen again. I've got some thoughts here. When he finds the disciples sleeping, he says, "Couldn't you men keep watch with me for 1 hour?" he asked Peter. So Peter is a focus here. And again, we know that Peter was the one that denied the Lord Jesus 3 times. So there is a theme within Matthew's Gospel of Peter learning stuff. And that we need to see here that Peter is learning something in this. So in order to not give offence to them, so here, I think as was brought out on Sunday, what we first need to see is Jesus has put himself under the law. So Galatians 4, when the time had fully come, God sent his son, born of a woman, born under the law, to redeem those under the law. So that's the first thing to see there. But also we are to have that example of Jesus who is saying, I'm going to give up my rights. I'm not going to assert my rights for the sake of the salvation of others. And he then calls us, in that sense, to not always be people who are asserting our rights and calling for us to experience our status right now, the implications of our status right now, but we are to actually lay down our lives, lay down our rights, take up our cross, follow him, those sorts of things. Now, did you notice though, Jesus doesn't pay? However, did you notice he doesn't pay? Not to give offence, he doesn't pay, a fish pays. Go to the sea, cast a hook and take the first fish that comes up, and when it opens its mouth you will find a shekel there. Oh, we've only got 4 minutes left, goodness. Jesus marvellously pays so as to avoid offence, to show that he is under the law, even though he is not required, because he is the temple, the one to whom the tax is being paid. Let's just see this. I think this is a good point. Aren't we all like Peter? We can get it so right and then get it so wrong. Now, Cheryl and Alan, you got to see how profoundly true this is, what you've said, and why the authors of the Gospels are not heroes. They are the failures in the Gospel, and we resonate with them. And what you and I need to keep getting is this is exactly the type of people that Jesus is working with, people like us. So what's in here? Ellen said, but Jesus doesn't really expect Simon to really go out and catch the fish, right? I figured when Jesus said what he said, he was recognizing that us humans like to make things harder for ourselves. No. Actually, the focus is not on the miracle. Notice that. We don't find Peter actually going and doing it. We assume that he did, but we don't actually see him going and doing it because there's no record that he does it. Not because it doesn't happen, but because that's not the point. The point is not the miracle. The point is that the money is paid by others, and the fish is the other. Now, you could say that the Father has provided what the sons need to be paying, that sort of thing. But what is going on, I think, is Jesus is paying it, but not paying it at the same time. And notice here, importantly, that by not paying it, he's saying he is the Son, he is the temple, He is the one to whom this tax is to be paid. But his payment, which he doesn't pay, he gets it from the fish, it's paid by others. This is for me and for yourself. Notice there that it cast a hook and it's got a shekel in it. Now, the actual cost of the tax was half a shekel. So receiving a shekel is twice as much as he needs. And that is because it's going to be for Jesus and for Peter. Now, remember, Peter is learning a lesson here that he too is a son of the kingdom, that he too is going to be part of that temple. And that's why I think in 1 Peter, he'll say that we are like spiritual stones being built into a spiritual temple. He's actually showing that this is what we are. We are to be in Christ, is to be that. So I think in our last minute and 15 seconds, I think that what we need to see is that, what's this classic Jesus loophole? Paying without paying. Yes, or yes, a good one. What we are seeing here is, to bring it all together in 53 seconds, is that we are to see that faith focused in the right direction is faith that will unleash the power of God, the power of the kingdom. And that is, what's that say? What's he say there? For me and for you. Also classic Jesus, super classic Jesus, that's right. That faith is to be focused not on the Jesus of your imagination, Jesus who wants me totally fit and healthy, Jesus who wants me rich and wealthy, Jesus who wants me happy as Larry all the time. This is Jesus who is actually calling me to take up my cross like he did, because he will suffer, and to know that in the future there will be that resurrection, to experience that resurrection power in our lives now as we look forward to what it will be in the future. And the second part there, in thinking about the tax being paid, that Jesus is, this is saying a profound thing about Jesus. Am I going into the minus seconds now? I think I might have. We're going to count up to another 45. No, we're not. That Jesus is the Son, and that in him we too are brought into this amazing relationship of being sons of the kingdom, sons for whom everything comes towards. Anyway, it's a tricky passage, and I don't purport to have it all together in my head or have explained it all that super well, but I hope we've got the guts of it there, and I hope that there is lots and lots to get from all that. Well, next 2 weeks is holidays, so there's no drill down for the next 2 weeks, and then we'll jump into it the following week. And the following week is what we're calling the ripple effect. The following term is the ripple effect, when we're going to be thinking about evangelism and leading people to Christ and sharing the gospel with people and all those sorts of things. You're going to be challenged. I'm going to be challenged. We're all going to be challenged. That's going to be after the holidays. Have a great couple of 2 weeks. Enjoy yourselves, and I'll see you later.